I know they're going back and forth.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think they would matter. If he wants to make some money, Floyd want to make some money.
It's not about the number. If it was about the number, we could have started up. I would have tell you, I'm not just interested. It make no sense for me. It's not my what I'm looking at right now.
How many of those shots from Francis can you take? Tyson Fury, if you're talking clean, Tyson Fury only took one. Everything else, Tyson was able to roll with. Big Francis only had to hit him one time. Like, that's a compelling story, in my opinion.
Mike Tyson openly admits that a fight between Jake Paul and Francis Ngannou might not make sense in terms of skill or balance, but it would still be a global phenomenon. He believes that curiosity alone would make millions tune in, not because it's fair, but because it's fascinating. Tyson explains that fans from both boxing and MMA would rush to see the collision of two completely different worlds. To him, it's not about who's better, it's about that electric question that only combat can answer. What if Jake Paul actually survives Francis Ngannou? That mystery alone, Tyson says, could make this one of the biggest spectacles the fight world has ever seen.
I know you're such a big MMA fan. You know, I've been to UFC fights and I see you sitting octagon side. I can't help but wonder if you had gotten into MMA as a young man, as a teenager, instead of boxing, how do you think your career would have went, Mike?
Hey, I had no idea, but I'm really enthused about the MMA, you know, because not thinking, I had no idea that Raphael, who's from a background of MMA, would know so much about boxing. I had no idea. You know, only thing I know about great boxing is the great Ed Joffa, who was a legendary boxer who happened to be Brazilian, but never knowing, yet not being conscious that he didn't know that much about boxing.
Do you think you could have learned all the wrestling moves and the takedown defense and could have been a champion in something like the UFC?
I could have done all that stuff. But once someone stepped on my foot, I would have tapped out. My feet are my weak. You step on my feet, I'm attacked.
Francis Ngannou, on the other hand, sees it from a completely different angle. For him, even the idea of being matched with Jake Paul feels disrespectful, almost insulting to his name, his record, and his legacy. He says Jake hasn't walked through the fire that real fighters endure. Spreece hasn't paid the kind of price that turns an athlete into a warrior. Ngannou makes it clear this isn't just a fight offer. It's a sign of how far modern entertainment has drifted from real combat. What used to be about pride and pain is now about clicks and cameras. And that, he says, is what makes this generation of fights so hollow.
You think about you to fight Jake to replace Javante. I'm like, who's Jake? You know, like, I was so confused, you know, like, I wasn't expecting that at all. And he said, yeah, Jake Paul, you know, he's fighting. And I'm like, no, bro, come on. Don't, I mean, don't disrespect me like that. And then they even say, like, even come out after and say, and what if the number are good? He sent out some number. I'm like, it's not about the number. If it was about the number, we could have started up. I would have tell you, I'm not just interested. It make no sense for me. It's not my what I'm looking at right now.
Chael Sonnen reacts with his trademark mix of humor and hard truth. He says, watching Jake Paul even think about stepping into a ring with Francis Ngannou is wild and weirdly exciting. According to him, this isn't about competitiveness. It's about curiosity. Sonnen jokes, Tyson Fury, the heavyweight king, got dropped by a single shot from Ngannou. If Fury, a man built for war, barely stood up after that, what chance does Jake Paul have? He laughs, but then turns serious. Jake may be brave and entertaining, but this time, he's calling out a monster. Sonnen reminds everyone that Jake doesn't have the weight, the chin, or the experience of Fury, and if Fury could only take one clean punch, Jake might not even make it past that.
Tells this story that Nikista's offering him the fight, but he's just not hearing it that way. Like, all right, you said you need help, and you called me, and I'm happy to help you, but you know what is it that I can do? So when Francis finally realizes it, he not only says no, he says he was offended. He said, Jake, you want me to bite Jake? Jake who? I said, Jake Paul. He said, that makes no sense. That's the last thing I would want to do right now. It's the last thing that I'm looking for. And, all right. Now, that is a good and comical story. And I think that Jake Paul deserves a lot of credit for that. I would have really liked if that match would have gotten booked. I mean, I think that would just solve so many problems from a storyline perspective. And there's this story going on out there that and it has to do with courage. Now, how you ever question a combat athlete's courage, I think, is hard. How you ever question a boxer's courage, right? Where you've only got two things you can do, and they're both involve bludgeoning. You can't even grab a hold of the guy or try to squeeze him. You can only bludgeon and be bludgeoned back. I think you're got an uphill battle to question somebody. But they have been very effective in doing just that to Jake. Hey, you start with this NBA guy, and then even those MMA guys, they're not boxers. And then when you got around to the boxers, but they weren't current boxers. Then when you get around to the current boxers, they're not big enough boxers. And I just loved it. When I heard that Francis Ngannou might be going against Jake, I loved it. I mean, what's that going to look like? How many of those shots from Francis can you take? Tyson Fury, if you're talking clean, Tyson Fury only took one. Everything else, Tyson was able to roll with. Big Francis only had to hit him one time. Like, that's a compelling story, in my opinion.
Experts are unanimous. Francis Ngannou isn't just bigger. He's in a completely different universe of power. He's over 260 pounds of muscle and raw destruction, far beyond anything Jake Paul has ever faced. Trainers say that if Jake truly wants this fight, he would have to rebuild himself from the ground up. New conditioning, new sparring partners, new mentality. Lightweight fights depend on speed and movement, but heavyweights like Ngannou demand survival, balance, and strength. Every punch is a storm. Every round a test of will. This isn't YouTube boxing anymore. This is a war zone where one mistake ends everything. Jake would need months of world-class preparation, and even then, survival would be the real victory.
Something unique. It would be something incredible. It's the same reason that I would be intrigued by a Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua fight, although I would never advise Jake Paul to take a Anthony Joshua fight. I wouldn't advise him to take a Francis Ngannou fight either, because as much as Anthony is far better, which we saw when they actually fought, Joshua slept Francis Ngannou quicker than me after 2 melatonin. I mean, it was quick, fast, in a hurry, completely dominant. But we also saw Francis Ngannou go toe-to-toe with the heavyweight champion of the world at that time. Yes, he was out of shape. We understand that. But Tyson Fury on that night got the shock of his life when Francis Ngannou not only went toe-to-toe, but put him down and danced on him. To this day, I think that fight could have gone Francis's way. Point being, there are levels to this shit. Not just in boxing, but in combat in general. And the size difference Francis would have over Jake would be incredible, but it would have been a great event. And a lot of people would have tuned in. Francis, though, is saying that's not happening.
How can they go from like Gervonta Davis to Francis Ngannou? Like, I mean, Gervonta Davis is a fantastic boxer, but and is a one-shot knockout artist. But come on, like the weight different and everything, it makes no sense.
It's a good point. I mean, obviously, Francis is right about the weight difference, but it's a good point in general for what do you do next? Jake has sparred guys like Shakur Stevenson, Ray Ford, Montana Love to try to prepare for Tank Davis. And even if you book this fight on December 12th or December 19th, that's still a completely different fight than you were going into. Completely different matchup, size-wise, skill-wise. The things that you're going to need to even try to compete if it's someone like a Francis Ngannou or even an Andre Ward or whoever else. Not just the fight style is different, but the size is different.
Former world champion and analyst Tim Bradley breaks down the bigger impact. The canceled Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis fight didn't just hurt the fighters. It shook the entire business side of boxing. Promoters, networks, sponsors, everyone lost money. Pay-per-view sales, marketing deals, and production budgets all went to waste. Bradley says Tank's legal troubles forced brands to pull out overnight, scared of being linked to controversy. Millions vanished in a single decision. He calls it a harsh reminder that boxing isn't just about punches, it's about image, reputation, and trust. When a fighter falls from grace, everyone who believed in him pays the price.
Tank, let's get on Tank real quick. You gotta be the dumbest dude, in the history of boxing, bro. $40 million, dog, down the drain. You gotta be the dumbest dude I've ever seen in the history of boxing, bro. Seriously. I'm like, $40 million, bro. Wealth. Literally wealth, bro. Going down the drain. I don't understand it. I can't make I don't understand it. But I'll tell you this. MVP promotions, whatever the hell y'all call it, most valuable promotions, shit, more like rookie promotions. Yeah, more like rookie promotions. You didn't know what you were dealing with. You had no clue. This has always been down Tank's alley, man. Now, let me just say one thing. You innocent until proven guilty. Ain't no charges been pending on Tank at all. But I'm just saying, this has always came up within the last few fights of Tank's career. Yeah, it has. And MVP, more like RP, rookie promotions. Yeah, y'all should have had a backup plan. You should have had a backup fighter. Yup. You live and you learn. Oh, absolutely. You live and you learn. You should have had a plan B. Just in case this man, Tank Davis, don't show up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what you should have done. Now you're looking like idiots. I heard through the grapevine the joint wasn't even selling. Yeah, because everybody's tired of your bull crap, Jake Paul. Yeah, everybody's tired of that. Wasn't nobody supporting that, man.